Hello, and welcome to another episode of Automate Office Work. I'm your host, Justin. Today's topic is all about vendor maps. Today is going to be a rather simple solution where I show you how to take something that might seem kind of complex and you make it quite simply. It's called vendor maps, and I will change. For those of you who are listening to audio only, I will try to describe everything on my screen in words so that you can enjoy this as audio only. But I'll also be showing my solution of a vendor map. So you might want to see it in action on the YouTube video or on the LinkedIn broadcast. By the way, this broadcast is live on LinkedIn most Fridays. So we do welcome the live audience, and you're welcome to leave questions or comments during, and I'll make sure to get to them as well. All right, so we switch over to my vendor map. All right, so I'm showing on my screen, this is a SharePoint page, and by default, it shows a map of the United States with the two-letter codes labeling each of the states. Below that is a drop-down menu. It says select a state, and it has all the names of the states in alphabetical order that the user can choose from them. And when the user either selects from the drop-down menu or clicking on a specific state, it opens content below the map. It shows there's a table. On the left side is a vertical navigation menu. This shows areas of law because my vendors, since I'm a lawyer and I deal with legal issues, my vendors are law firms who work in different areas of law. And so we categorize them into different areas of law for their categories. I've got intellectual property, litigation, real estate, and mergers and acquisitions in this navigation on the left side. And then on the right side, it shows a list of my vendors who work in each of these areas. So right now I have intellectual property selected, and I have one law firm. It says Texas IP Partners because I did click on Texas. So my law firm for intellectual property in Texas is called Texas IP Partners. This is its own little box. In the top right, there is an X, so I can delete this law firm, this vendor. Below that is a box with a pencil. And that box right now, it says, these guys are great. So I did leave some content in there earlier, and you can see it there. These guys are great. If I was to add some more content, if I was to type into that box, these guys are great, and I recommend them. When I click away, there was a box in the top right corner of my screen. It said saving, and then it says saved, and it disappeared immediately. So I just updated this, and and now it's all updated. I do have a button below that. It says plus add. So if you want to add another vendor for this state, for this category, you just click on add, and there's a box that pops up. For me, it says law firm name. I guess to be more general, it should say vendor name. But I'm going to put in fake vendor, and I'm going to click on the create button. And now I have two boxes for this state, for this category. And it says fake vendor. And I've got a box where I can type anything. I've also got that box in the top right of the vendor. It's an X. And when I hover over it, it turns red to show me that this is a deleting kind of an action. I'm going to click to delete that, and it asks, do you really want to delete this? I say yes, and it takes it away. Okay. So this works for all the states. At the very top of my screen, I also have two buttons. The button that is selected right now says US, and to the right of that is a button that says world. And I'm going to click on the world button. And now I see a map of the entire world with all of the countries shown. I do not show the names of the countries by default, just because the names would be too big and would take too much space. You would not be able to see the countries underneath them. But when you do hover over a given country, it becomes a darker shade, and its name appears somewhere near it. Okay, so I'm going to click on, let's say, United States. Oh, I also have the same drop-down menu with all the countries if the user would rather select from a drop-down menu. Here, I'll do the drop-down menu this time. I'll go down to United States. United States. Okay. And it brings up the same kind of content. The 4 categories of my vendors. One of them is selected by default. And it says for intellectual property, it does say see state by state. So yeah, there's kind of this funny thing for US law firms. A lot of law firms, they focus on different laws of specific states. So most law firms are not going to be at the national level. You're going to want a regional or a very specific law firm for your state. But yeah, for the United States, it says that. Let's see, I think I do have Baker McKenzie on here. If I click on Russia, yeah, I've got Moore and I've got Baker McKenzie. Okay, so I guess let's discuss the issue. Why would you need something like this? Okay, so let's imagine you are in a department, and let's imagine you are managing vendors. Vendors that are in specific areas of the world, different countries, different states, and you are managing these for the rest of your department. The rest of your department is going to actually be using the services of these vendors. And so they need to be able to see a list of your existing vendors. If they do not see the list of your existing vendors, they're going to keep coming to you, asking you to create or onboard even more vendors. And after a while, after having hundreds of these or thousands, you're going to say to yourself, why am I managing thousands of vendors? Let's get this list down. So that would require you not only to align and make the list small, but then also to provide that list to your people in a nice, easy to use way. I would suggest using an interface like this where you show them a map. And then they can see the different categories of vendors. They can see the vendors that are already ready. They can see even some recommendations, some notes. You could expand this and make this even more complex. Like, let's say you allow your users to give ratings every time they use a vendor. So you'd have a history under the names of each of these vendors. You'd have like a comments section. You would allow them to give like a rating of, let's say, a number of stars out of 5. And then your users would be able to see everybody else's history and recommendations of when they use the vendors. Okay, so this is a much better experience than not letting people see the list of vendors. Or even if you did have a list of vendors, let's say it's like an Excel spreadsheet. That's not a very inviting way to be able to see the different vendors. People might enjoy something like this a little bit more, being able to click on the map and being able to see things in a more inviting, kind of a beautiful, simple way. All right, so that's it for this week. Just kidding. I'm thinking that I could actually show some of the code behind this. So I'm going to go. I created my own editor for code on SharePoint. It is at editor. Okay, I'm going to go into my legal. I have a SharePoint at /site/legal. I'm going to click on my Go in my editor. It opens up all the folders that are on my SharePoint. I do have a folder called vendor map. Inside there, I have a javascript.js. This allows me to then take all of this code from this javascript.js and put it into a SharePoint web part, which is what you're seeing on the vendor map page. Okay, so that is a web part being brought into this SharePoint page. I can edit this web part by editing this javascript.js. Okay, when I go to this, I've got the very first thing we start doing is that we start hiding all the SharePoint stuff. Like SharePoint has a full screen mode kind of a button, and we click it immediately. As soon as this page loads, it clicks that to put it into full screen mode. We also hide a lot of different SharePoint kind of elements, like the navigation, the menu bars. Just get rid of all of that. And what we're left with is just a completely blank screen that then we can make it look however we would like it to look. All right, the first thing on my web page is the styling. This is called Cascading Style Sheets, or CSS for short. This is all the different colors, how big different things are, the different fonts, the different backgrounds. Some different things happen, like when you hover over a country or a state, it changes to a different color. When you click on it, it makes it stay a certain color. Okay. Below that, we've got some HTML that's starting. This is our page. Here's that button that I put, or that little box that said saving. Here are my buttons, my world buttons. I've got one that says US, and I have another one that says world. Below that, I've got a container, and it's containing what's called scalable vector graphics, or SVG for short. And this is, it's a whole bunch of coordinates telling the computer how to draw the different states and the different countries. So that's not an image that you're looking at. It's not like with pixels. It's actually calculated with math, giving the computer all the different points where the different edges are of the countries and states. And that makes it really nice, especially so you can actually zoom in on this. You can zoom in quite a bit, and the image never becomes blurry, because we're not dealing with pixels, but we're dealing with math. That's a bunch of equations telling the computer how to draw it. And that makes it so that when it draws it, it's very smooth and crisp and clear at any zoom level. Okay. It also makes it so I'm not using an image. I'm using something where we know the exact points where each country is or each state is. And so then the user can click or hover over one of these regions. We know exactly which region it is. And those are mapped out a little bit lower. So here it is. Here is the world map. Below that, you have a list of, these are all the different names of the countries that pop up. There's Russia, Japan, China, Mongolia. We tell it exactly at which place to put the name. So when a person hovers over the country, the name is somewhere nearby, but it's not over the country. It's just a little bit off. And I did this in percentages. So it's like I have a top point and a left point. So like Russia is 30, the name of Russia is going to be 34% from the top and 69% from left. So no matter how much we have zoomed in on the map, it doesn't matter. We're not dealing with pixels. We're dealing with percentages. Okay. I'm going to go down a lot more. Okay. The next one is the US states. Okay. Now I've got the drop-down menus as well with the different options. And below that, this is my box where we put the names of the law firms. So yeah, there's a box. I have a div for the law firms. So that's where the list of the law firms will go. I've got some buttons for like adding a law firm. And then here's my container for the details of a new law firm. Here is a text box where you type in the name of the law firm. And here's my button that said create for creating the new law firm. And below that, all right. So I have a whole bunch of JavaScript that is doing its work. One of the first things that we do is we get the name of the current person who is logged into SharePoint. You can make calls to SharePoint. SharePoint has an API, and that's what we're doing here with an AJAX call. It's going to the API endpoint in SharePoint to get the current user, and we're selecting only their email address. And then we put the person's email address into an HTML element called email address. And so I believe it's going to be up here. No, it's not actually shown. Yeah, if I wanted to show it, if I wanted to show the person's email address in the top right corner, I could easily do it just with this. Okay. Another thing that we have is we have a file called areas of law. And this is where we get the definitive list of the areas of law, those 4 categories. It's at areasoflaw.json. And we are retrieving that. And then we know which areas of law we have available that we can use. I'll actually open up that JSON file. Go to editor, open another tab. Go to my vendor map. And I think it's in my data folder. Okay, do I have areas of law? There it is. Areas of law.json. I'm going to click on that and open it. Okay, so here I've got a JSON data object. It is, I guess for some reason, I made it an array at first, and then each of these elements is a data object. It starts with, there's a key with a number, and then the value of that number is the name of the area of law. So I've got 1, intellectual property, 2, litigation, 3, real estate, and so forth. This allows so that instead of using the names of these areas directly, you can use a number. So these numbers we can use, I'll show you where we use the numbers further, but let's say if I had like the word intellectual property, and in the future, well, all of these law firms are tagged as intellectual property law firms. But then in the future, let's say if we wanted to change the name of this category to something like IP, we would have to go back through all the previous records of all the law firms tagged as intellectual property law firms and rename them to IP instead of intellectual property. By doing it this way, we're mapping the name to a number. A number is a unique code. This number 1 should never change. And so it's possible then we can update the name of the category in a single place in the future. Okay, so each of these countries and states, you'll notice they each have their own JSON file as well. So when I clicked on, let's say, texas.json, it has its own data object, and I've got a 1 for the category. And then underneath that category, I have an array of law firms or vendors. And it says law firm, and then the name of the law firm, and then it says notes. And then the notes, these guys are great, and I recommend them. Okay, so this allows you to expand this. You can easily, every time somebody adds a new law firm, it puts in the correct category and then the correct details of each law firm underneath of that. And so you're actually editing in the background here, we're editing a JSON file. Another way that we could have done this is to set up a database. And you would actually need a couple of different databases. You would need to have, well, a list of your categories. Then you would need like a list of your of each vendor, and you would need to put the vendor under the appropriate category and under the appropriate state or country. By doing it this way, it makes it so that we can just open a single file and you see everything all at once. You're making a single call. It also makes it so you can store the data in, I guess, whatever kind of dimension you want. If you're thinking about the dimensions of your data, think about it like a spreadsheet. You have rows going across, and you have or columns going across and rows going up and down. That's only 2 dimensions, right? So let's say you wanted to do more dimensions, like let's say we had the country and the category are so if you had like rows of countries and columns of your categories, to put each of your law firms in there, well, the cell in a spreadsheet that you're getting down to, you would only be able to put the data of a single law firm in there, because the cell only holds like 1 point of data. When, let's say, you want to have a stack of these data points, like a whole bunch. So in your mind, think of it as like the Z-axis coming out at you from your computer. So you could stack the law firm data. We could have like 1, 2, 3 law firms. So an Excel spreadsheet or even a database, you wouldn't be able to hold everything in a single table. You'd have to do multiple tables. And then to get the data, you'd have to make a couple of calls. You'd have to call one table, and then you'd have to call the next table, right? So by doing it this way, I click on Texas, it goes to texas.json and gets the data exactly, just with a single call. It does make the data a little bit more complex, but complexity is fine with me. This is a good amount of complexity for me. So I decided to make this solution in this way. Okay. Also, if you add any other countries in the future, I did code it so that when a person clicks on a country, it looks to see if the country.json file exists. If it does, it opens that, and that's good. If that JSON file does not exist yet, it automatically creates that JSON file, and we have an empty skeleton. So we can start working immediately. It's a very flexible system. Very nice. I enjoyed making this. It only took me, I think, a couple hours. And yeah, you see that we have a really nice interface. Let's see if I have anything else to share about this. Is there anything? Yeah, we've got like what happens when you click, what happens when you hover. Here is the binding of clicking on the US button. It hides the world map and it shows the US map. Here's what happens when you pick a state. It's looking to see if there is that state.json. Here's a function to create a file, create a state file. So if it doesn't exist, if we get a fail, it says create state file. And then in parentheses, it says the name of the state, well, the variable that holds the name of the state. And it then goes to this function to create a state file, and it creates it. Here is the contents of that empty skeleton file, which is just two curly braces, just empty. Here is the function of our buttons, what to do when you're like adding a law firm, when you're, yeah. You're saving a law firm. And that's it. It's only 1,075 lines of code, and you've got a full, easy kind of an interface. Let's see. I did talk a little bit about how this could be expanded. You could get even more feedback from your people. You can allow for like separate evaluations, maybe some stars, maybe have like the names of the people that are leaving the comments. You could have like an average rating for these. I also made it so that you can click on a law firm. See, there are two law firms here, Moore and Baker McKenzie. I can click on the Baker McKenzie box and I can drag it up, and then I let go, and it changes the order of these. So you can easily, like, let's say you wanted like your top one to be at the top and to go down in order of your preference. You could easily do that in this kind of a setup. Yeah, how would we add extra categories? Like there are only 4 right now. Well, I would probably want to limit that to like an admin kind of a feature. And so up at the top of this screen, I would probably put like a gear, and I would redirect the person to another page, or I would give them a pop-up, and it would show them the current categories, and you'd be able to manage those categories. You could rename them, you can add categories, you can remove categories. That might just be an admin feature, because I wouldn't want everybody in the department to be able to start doing that. Let's see. All right, I'm going to check LinkedIn to see if there's any notes. No comments today. I did see that we had a couple of people that were scheduled to be live on this. If anybody is wanting to come on or just leave a question, I'm happy to take them. I'm probably going to wind down here then, because this is quite a very simple solution. And that is the point. You don't need to buy these huge solutions. And we have the tools. You can just open up SharePoint and start figuring this out. I was able to do it myself. I used to be a corporate lawyer for 10 years, but my career changed because I started figuring out how to use the tools that we already have. I noticed that a lot of people gravitate toward buying these huge solutions for like millions of dollars. And then it's just a struggle trying to implement them and trying to get them set up and customized, and then to get everybody in the company to change their behavior. when all you really need is a simple tool that meets people where they are and just helps them to do their work a little bit easier. Much different way of going about things. We have the tools, we have the ability. So I'm here to help you guys on your own journey. If you have an idea of a solution, feel free to reach out to me. We can chat it through. And if you would really like, I am available to help you build your solution. I can help you build your dream. All right. My name is Justin. My website is automateofficework.com. And I am available for different kinds of services. For consulting, we can just talk through your problem. I can point you in the direction that you should go. It's very valuable, very valuable service in itself. In addition, we can go further. I can actually help you to design and build your solution, exactly the right size and fit that you need. And third, I'm available for education. So if you would like help with your team, perhaps you need a bit of a culture change. Maybe you don't even know what you need and what your team is struggling with. We can put something in place like a survey. We can do an ideas portal. We can get your team thinking these things through, and we can make a plan. All right. I've got lots of great content here. Today's podcast is episode number 26. So be sure to go through all the other episodes to find lots of great content, as well as I have some free resources. LegalTechReady.com is really good. It's geared toward the legal industry because I am a lawyer. How to go on the journey to implement technology. It's not as easy as just throwing money at something. You need to actually know your problem and be able to express what the solution would look like. And then you can go and evaluate vendors and different solutions. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I think I'll leave it at that. If anybody would like to connect with me, my name is Justin Turman. You can find me on LinkedIn, Justin Turman, Turman. My email address is justin@automateofficework.com. And I wish you happy automating.